All right, back with another video. Now, I'm gonna give you a word that I believe Yahweh wants me to tell y'all. The word is fruit bears in a season according to the Father's will, such as the Father's will in our lives. Or rather, just like when the fruit is done, when God says he's going to do something, he's not going to do it on our time. He's going to do it on his time. You understand? So, in our walks with God, there's often going to be situations that try our faith, that have us to rely on God. And in these situations, God is trying to test to see where your heart is. So, for instance, Abraham was promised that he would have a son, or not even a son, a seed that would be the start of God's chosen people in a covenant with Abraham, that his child would serve God forever, and all the people that were connected to his child and were under this child, and then the children's children and the children's children, children's children. They said the seed will number the earth like the stars, or in the dust of the earth. That's how many children Abraham's children would have, and that they would serve God. So now, Abraham was married to Sarah for a lot of years. 10 years go by, no child. 15 years go by, no child. 20 years go by, no child. Some scholars write that it took 25 years for Abraham and Sarah to have a child. When they had a child, when they had Isaac, Abraham was 99 to 100 years old, and Sarah was 89 to 90 years old. Because they didn't wait on God to show up at the timing that he was. Sarah told Abraham to have a child with another woman named Hagar when he was around the middle of that time, in between somewhere. Hagar began to make in front of Sarah because Sarah couldn't have a child with Abraham. She had been his wife for many, many years by that point, but she laid with him and she had his child. So Hagar would make in front of Sarah and showing off her son Ishmael to Sarah because they didn't want to wait on God's timing. And they kept on trying to, or Sarah at least, try to make God's blessing happen for Abraham without God in the blessing. Because God never wanted Abraham to sleep with another woman besides Sarah, because adultery is a sin. Sarah got tired of waiting, and she realized that I can't do this on my own. I have no understanding how God is going to be able to do this. And she lost faith. Because she lost faith, she almost gave up her promise to another woman, who then made in front of her every day because she couldn't have a child with her husband. She was rearing those higher ages to where it was just seeming impossible. It was not really heard of at the time for a woman to give birth for the first time in those higher 70, 80 ages, around there. So she stepped outside of God's will, told Abraham to step outside of God's will, and then she received the punishment from that. Abraham still stayed faithful to God, and Sarah still stayed faithful to God. And eventually, a group of wise men came up and said to Abraham, you're going to have a child that's going to be a part of God's covenant, that's going to number the earth like the stars in the sky, and it's going to be through your wife, Sarah. Sarah hears this, and she starts laughing. And God's like, why are you laughing? She's like, a woman this old can't give birth? He said, just watch. So then, I believe it says a year later, she was either pregnant. No, I believe a year later she was pregnant, and a little bit months after that, she gave birth to Isaac. They tried to make something happen that God wanted to make happen supernaturally through their human, earthly understanding. And because of that, they missed out on the blessing. Timing. God still gave them the blessing, but they misinterpreted the blessing's timing. And because of that, Sarah put a yoke upon her that wasn't necessary for her to have through Hagar showing off Ishmael in front of her every day and saying, like, basically taking digs at Sarah for the fact that she couldn't have a child with Abraham. Now that they have Isaac, Sarah gets fed up, tells Abraham to tell Hagar and Ishmael they need to go. Abraham doesn't want to because that's his son, but God says, listen to your wife. I'm going to bless your son anyway, but this son that you have with her, that's the one that's going to receive the major blessing. So Hagar and Ishmael get kicked out. Sarah, Abraham, and Isaac grow up together, and Isaac eventually has more children. Isaac has Jacob and Esau, and then Jacob and Esau have the 12 tribes of Israel, and then they have children, and they have children, and then it goes to David, and then it goes all the way to Yeshua. All because God wanted to do something in his timing. Whether or not they waited for God's timing and stayed in God's timing, he still was willing and faithful to bless them, because even though they stepped out of God's timing and sinned against what he wanted them to do, they still remained faithful in the she's getting made in front of probably ever so often by her own maid. And then he is just upset that he can't have a child, or maybe he's been waiting for a child. And then also God promised him a child with Sarah. It hasn't happened. It's been many, many years. They were probably both wanting the thing to happen, but they just wanted it to happen in a season that they felt comfortable. But not every time you want something from God, it's going to happen in the season that you feel comfortable it happening in. Because it's going to be miraculous when God gives you something. He wants it to be at a time where you can understand that it was not you that did anything, but it was only him. And that only through him we're able to receive miracles such as having a child in your 89th to 90th year of your life, and you being in your 99th to 100th year of your life having a child. That wasn't possible for them to do alone. It was only possible for them to do with God. So, just like fruit grow in a certain season that God wants it to grow, and then the fruit will be done according to what God ordained when he first made the heavens and the earth and said that this fruit will be done in this amount of months. You got to plant it in this season, and this fruit will be done in this amount of months, and you're going to plant it in this season. When God plants a blessing in your life, or a promise, or something that is soon to come, you can't rush the blessing. You can't rush the blesser. He wants to see if you're going to serve him regardless of whether you get it or not. Regardless. Abraham was so faithful regardless whether or not Sarah had a child. That's why she was able to have the child. Sarah, her faith wavered, but she still stayed faithful to God. She didn't give up on God. Yeah, she didn't believe she was going to get the child, but she still believed in God. She didn't stop believing in God just because she didn't get the child, just because it didn't happen at the time and that she wanted. So that's what we're called to do. We wait on God. If he gives you a promise and you know it's from God, you wait on God until the season when it happens. And stop trying to rush the blessing. Y'all over here rushing the blessing, really putting curses on y'all lives. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. It's not good. Don't rush God's time. His timing is perfect. It's always going to work out. That's what I've learned. That's the lesson I had to learn today. Don't be like me. Don't be like me. Be like him. He's perfect. But that's all I wanted to say. Just wait on God's timing, because his timing is always perfect. And the fruit will bear in the season that it's supposed to bear. Yeshua Yahweh loves you. Yeshua loves you. And I love you. God bless y'all. Y'all be safe.